all humans can be in a high state of consciousness so that we do all become earth keepers. So we do remember that that is what we're here to do, and actually we're custodians of this planet. And we're here to bring magic, not to destroy everything that we touch, you know. So, and that comes from consciousness, that comes from us understanding, it comes from us looking at ourselves deeply and hurting the parts of us, or healing the parts of us that are hurting, rather.
Hello, welcome to Soul Awakenings with Madiha Sosan podcast. Today we have a very loving, warm guest with us, and her name is Kristina Batty. Now, Kristina is a co-creator of Human 5.0, supporting leaders to expand their consciousness and reach their highest potential. Kristina is trained in IFS, Quantum Liberation, EFT, Access Consciousness, Reiki, and the list goes on. She is also trained as a Satwa Yoga teacher and an earthkeeper initiated through indigenous cultures of the Americas. She works in partnership with Spirit to assist with the ongoing evolution of the self and the planet, as well as being guided by the Galactic Mayan Calendar and the treasures the stars hold for us to expand with grace and ease. She has co-authored a book, You Are a Genius, and is currently in final edits of her second edition of a book called You Too Can Bloom, a simple guide for the personal awakening process to thrive with grace and ease. Now, without further ado, let's bring this beautiful human on. Hi, Kristina. How are you doing?
I am really good, Madiha. How are you doing, my darling?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much.
Good.
I've met you. We've been friends for over a year now. And so I met you at Roger Hamilton's, one of the Roger Hamilton's event. And, it's so funny because I left my stainless steel bottle at the event, and I texted you to ask whether you guys you guys are there and you have it, and you did. And we found out that we actually live 2 minutes away from each other.
Yeah.
All those years. Yeah, it's just funny. It's funny how universe brings us together, and then obviously I got to know you more, and obviously connected with you in a level that I've never connected with anyone else, and I still say this, that, you carry such a warm, loving energy that, nothing that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I want the audiences to see that as well.
Thank you so much, Madiha. I think it's actually coming up 2 years now.
2 years?
Because, wow. Because that event was in the December. So it would have been December the year before last, not last December.
I thought it was in July or
July.
May. It was definitely before. Was it? Okay. No, never mind the dates. We timelines don't exist where we live.
Exactly. Time and space is not even a thing.
Okay. So obviously our listeners don't know who you are. So could you tell us a bit about yourself, a brief overview for our listeners?
Yeah, okay. So hello everybody. My name is Kristina, and I work as a coach and also as a healer. I'm trained in many different modalities of healing, internal family systems, EFT. I'm also a yoga teacher, a Sattva Yoga teacher. And I think over the years, I've just blended lots of different modalities together to be able to help people. And my biggest passion is to support people into their fullest expression. So it's like really helping people on their evolutionary journeys and to delve deep into themselves to be able to uncover the magic and the wisdom inside. So that's what I do, and that's how I help people. And through that, myself and my partner Daniel, we've done a lot of work within the entrepreneurial community. as you mentioned, we ran events with Roger Hamilton, so really kind of bringing a sense of consciousness and spirituality into leadership, as well as being something that we've been a part of. So yeah, fingers in lots of different pies. Definitely don't have a particular label that I attach to, but yeah, just blending lots of different things in as they interest me, really. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
brilliant. Because like I don't really see much of business and spirituality together, and you guys are like sort of a perfect fit to bring all this together, and it's beautiful to see. Actually, it's very rare, but it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, I think it's getting more and more, it's increasing more and more. And, conscious leadership wasn't even a thing, whereas now it's, there are people that are holding that baton all over the world actually now. So it's infiltrating slowly but surely. But yeah, so.
Okay, awesome. So going back to your childhood, what was your childhood like? What were you like as a child? How was your upbringing? The environment that you lived in?
Yeah, so I grew up in a little town in Yorkshire, and my upbringing was good to all intents and purposes. I had a really loving family. My parents were supportive, and they're still together now and going strong, and really showed me that love long term was possible. And they had a good relationship with my family and friends. So in terms of my upbringing, it was very privileged actually. We didn't have huge amounts of wealth or anything like that, but it was just we were comfortable, and we could afford a takeaway on a Saturday night, and it was just a middle class, working class type upbringing for me in Knaresborough, which is where I grew up.
Yeah. So were you like a sensitive child? Because when I see you now, I get that vibe off you. You're still quite, you seem sensitive, gentle soul. Did that sort of play a huge part in your life? Like in terms of your relationships and, the things that the environment that you were in?
Yeah, definitely. I think I always had like a like a mature outlook. I remember speaking to trees when I was younger and having a really good relationship with the tree at the bottom of the garden. And I remember one time my mum had told me off for something, and I can't remember how old I was, but I was just kind of reasoning with myself that she was only doing it because she was protecting me and she was looking out for me, and there wasn't anything for me to be upset or angry about. She wasn't actually angry at me. It was like I just naturally had this understanding of what was happening, rather than getting too embroiled with that. And I think my sensitivity, probably I realized more as I've gone into my own inner work journey, how that sensitivity had played out when I was younger. I didn't necessarily realize it at the time. I think my internal system, did a really great job of just bringing up loads of protectors. So it was just allowed me to not feel it too much. However, as I've gone in, I've really started to unpick and understood that yeah, definitely the sensitivity was there from a very young age, and was having a more profound effect on me than I really realized at the time. And also, it was a really great lesson for me that I had a very privileged upbringing in many, many ways, and hadn't gone through a lot of the turmoil that you think of, parents getting divorced or different situations that might arise. I hadn't experienced any of that, and yet there was still so much to unpick. And for me, it distributed itself as like a lack of confidence and lack of self-worth, and that sensitivity had gone into unconscious patterns where I wasn't showing up as myself and was scared to be myself, which I'm still unraveling now. Right, it still is a process that I'm going through. But yeah, so sensitivity definitely was something that was present, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's just still unpicking.
Yeah, we often, like, we're sensitive souls, we often suppress a lot of our feelings in, because, and you know, like I said, like you can walk into a room, you know, and feel what's going on in the room. You don't even have to,
Yeah,
they don't even have to say anything, and you're like a sponge. And it's so easy, it's so easier to get like overwhelmed by everything that's going on around you.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's, you know, it's it's one of those things where you have to sort of work through, especially if you're an empath. You have to go in and set boundaries, and don't be afraid to say no, and you know, being empowered in that sensitivity. And it takes
yeah.
quite a lot of work you know, it takes years or even lifetime to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, it's we take so much on ourselves when we're little, you know, and people say some things, and sometimes it's not even a big deal, you know, it's just a slight-handed comment from your brother or your sister, or it's just something that you witness within your, you know, your cousins playing. And in that moment, you take something on of an understanding of learned behavior, and you vow to yourself that you're not going to be in that space, or you're not going to allow somebody to feel that. Or if somebody else is hurting or upset, you take that on and feeling like it's your fault. Or this was certainly my experience of like of just feeling like things were my fault and I was responsible for other people's feelings and emotions, which then stopped me from being in my fullest, or allowing myself to really connect in, and to not speak my truth. And all of these just tiny little things that over time just become our natural way of being, and we don't realize that actually there is another way. But yeah, so I think it is, and definitely having that empathetic, because I walk into a room now, and I just feel it. I just
Yeah,
sense it, and I'll know
yeah,
that something's not right, and just be able to tune into it. So that's always been there.
yeah.
It's just, I think you kind of shut it down a little bit as we get older.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Were you brought up in a spiritual household then?
Um, I wouldn't say so. My grandma, well, you know, it's not necessarily that my family weren't spiritual or were spiritual. My grandma went to church every week, and I went to my parents sent me to Sunday school when I was younger, but I only went for a few weeks, and then I literally came home and just said to Mum, I don't want to go back there again. And Mum said, okay, fine, fair enough. And I still to this day don't know why I had that reaction. I don't know if something happened, or if it was just that I just didn't resonate with it. I've never really resonated with organized religion. It's just not struck a chord with me at all. I went when my grandma passed. I did go when I was about 7. I went to church for a few months, but again, it just didn't light me up. But there was always an openness in my family. You know, like my mum had experiences where she'd seen ghosts, and my sister also had experiences where she had seen beings that had passed on. And there's lots of stories around my granddad had visited the family when he'd passed on and given a warning, and so there was kind of this curiosity within my family. My grandma, I used to remember, she used to read my tea leaves in the morning when we were having morning tea, and I just remember being like totally fascinated by it. But none of them would have actively have called themselves healers, or were really on a spiritual path. They went into kind of daily rituals, but they believed that there was something beyond this material world, and they were curious about that. But no, I wasn't born into anything that was particularly strong, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Totally get it. So now I'm aware that you were a bit of a party animal. So, do you think being a sensitive soul sort of led you on a self-destructive path?
I think, like, because I've reflected back on all of this for over the years, And I think that it was my lack of confidence in myself and my inability to be myself, and a real deep-seated fear actually of what other people thought of me, that stopped me from, like, I would never have danced in front of people or sung in front of people or expressed myself. And then when I got into kind of early to mid-teens, probably early teens, if I'm being perfectly honest, found alcohol, and all of a sudden I'd have a few drinks and all those inhibitions, all those fears would just drop away. And then in that moment, it was like I could be the me that I knew that I was, if that makes sense. But then I would drink too much. And I would wake up in the morning, sometimes not having any recollection of what had happened the night before, or remembering and wishing I didn't remember what had happened the night before, or upsetting people, or sleeping with people, or just all of these things that were just like things that I wouldn't dream of doing when I was sober, that actually had completely the opposite effect and made the fear of what people think of me, the despising myself at times, it brought that cycle deeper and more expansive. So that just got kind of like increasingly worse, peaking whenever I would have a breakup from a boyfriend, and then I'd just kind of go mental and just be like getting drunk every single night. So I think it was definitely linked to being sensitive. And I think it was just, I was trying to find a way of being me. And the only way that I could do that was by numbing out the parts of me that were in overprotection zone. So then when I found cocaine in my early 20s, that was like brilliant, because I could drink, but I never got drunk. It was like, because the cocaine would just balance me out.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like, and then, you know, I kind of got into pills and all sorts of different other like party drugs. Like I would never have called myself an addict. Like I remember the first person that ever gave me some cocaine said, "Don't ever take it sober, Kristina. If you take it sober, then you're on a slippery slope. Just make sure you always take it with alcohol and you'll be fine." So I just stuck by that rule. And it served me well, you know. And yes, I spent way too much money on drugs. But it balanced me out. I never did anything when I was on drugs that I regretted. I always was fully compos mentis, but it meant that I could party, because I would get to like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning when I was just on alcohol, and I would fall asleep, or I'd be going home, or I'd be doing something stupid. Whereas drugs, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, 2, 3 days later, I would still be kind of going terrible on my body, like my physical body. But yeah, like I'm not necessarily condoning drugs, but my experience of drugs was fun. Like I had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
And again, the same thing, that it dissolved all of the parts within me that were not feeling good enough or enough, and just allowed me to walk in my presence. And then my experiences with drugs started to get a bit more psychedelic, and I started to have spiritual experiences with working with drugs. And that then it was almost like an aid to help my spiritual awakening, actually. And then the drugs that weren't supporting that then fell to one side, and they dissolved, and it became more about spiritual exploration with working with substances, rather than just getting high and having a good time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I mean, there are a lot of people who've been through trauma or really rough life experiences. They run to drugs and alcohol. And actually, I was having this conversation with you a couple of days ago about bypassing the healing process. So that is exactly what it is. You know, you sort of numbing that part of you that needs to be healed. because for amount of time it's okay, but then later on in your life it's gonna cause havoc on your body if you overuse it. So I totally get you, there. And what I find is a lot of sensitive people a lot of sensitive people turn to drugs, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they've been through trauma. Majority of them have, but there are quite a lot of people I've noticed that empaths and sensitive souls turn to alcohol or drugs, and which kind of overrides their system. It overwhelms them even more. So but they don't recognize what's happening, but they just keep doing it. It's like
Yeah.
they're not trusting that intuition. There's always that intuition. Okay, you need to slow down. You need to stop. You need to but they can't, because everything from the outside is coming in. It's overwhelming you to a
Yeah.
certain degree.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's different levels of kind of alcohol use and drug use, like some people just have a couple of drinks on a weekend, some people have a bottle of whiskey a day, and it's the same with drug use as well, like some people just have a bits on a weekend or at a party or whatever, and sometimes it can turn into more kind of like drug abuse, I guess, and addiction. um and I do agree. I think that it is very much more those sensitive types of people, because it's a numbing tool. It's a soothing tool. It allows the pain of whatever that is to be subsided, and whether or not that's lacking in confidence or self-esteem, as it was within my case, or whether or not that is like serious trauma that you just want the memories to go away, or you just want the feelings to be subsided. So, and what's really interesting though, Mads, is that now they're actually starting to prove, they're doing scientific studies now, that a lot of the drugs are beneficial for depression and PTSD, and
Really?
so like MDMA and psilocybin are being used in studies now to be able to ease the symptoms of depression. And I feel like when we're it's just that we've not been in right relation with these substances, and I think that is a part of it. And don't get me wrong, I look back sometimes at some of the things that I did during those years and think, holy macaroni, I do not know how I'm still alive. Like, I went to Ibiza for a week and did not sleep the whole week, right? Because I was just like, literally, it took me about 3 months to recover. And at times I'd be laid in bed and I'd like feel my heart pounding in my chest, and was like, am I going to actually die from a heart attack? And just, thankfully Spirit had other things in store for me than to die in my bed in London from a heart attack. But it was possible, right?
Yeah.
So, it's a scary thing to be doing when you're working with those types of substances. And there is always that addictive quality. But I just feel like the more that we understand these substances and actually can not necessarily fear them, that there are uses for them to be able to use them therapeutically. Because I think there's a lot of people that need support, and I actually think that actually pretty much all of us have trauma. Like, it's a spectrum, but I don't believe there's anyone on this planet that's not had some kind of traumatic event. Like, the birth in itself is a traumatic event, like, so nobody gets out of that you don't get in here without going through that. And the first time your mum and dad leave you, like, that is a traumatic event. There's so many, as you're becoming an independent human, there's all of these little traumas that are in our system that we respond in different ways. And obviously some people have got a much wider spectrum, and they've gone through real challenges throughout their lives. So it's like this whole spectrum, but we've all got this work to do. And it's been one of the biggest teachings that I've learned over the last few years since I've been doing all of this work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. Trauma isn't just a big, huge thing. There's little subtle things, little traumas. If someone just says something to you when you're younger, that you holding that trauma until 30 or something, it's. I totally agree with you there.
Yeah.
So what was obviously you were like out partying all the time, numbing all your feelings and emotions. So what was the turning point that led you on a path of a transformation?
So I think the point was meeting Daniel, my partner. So that was in 2010. And we partied together for a little while. So it wasn't necessarily like all of a sudden everything changed, because we were kind of not on the same level, but on the same level. And then, but what that did was he introduced me to thinking about things in everything being energy. Because one of the other things that I had done when I moved to London, so I left Yorkshire, and then I've lived all over the country, but I moved to London when I was about 23, and I worked in recruitment, and I just completely shut myself down. Like, I was saying that my grandma used to read my tea leaves, and, I was like really interested in energy books and chakras and understanding about astrology and all that kind of thing when I was a teenager. But I just completely, through fear of what others would think of me, had just let all of that go. And I just became like a city bitch, basically, for lack of a better word, with high heels and sharp suits, and just working in recruitment. And if you weren't making me money, I didn't want to speak to you. And it was like just that type of attitude. And my energy was there. And then all of a sudden, this hippie comes into my life, and literally I was like, what do I see in this guy? Like, he wants to put flowers in my hair. Like, what do I see in this guy? But it was meant to be, right? It was meant to be. And us coming together, I kind of pulled out his corporateness, because it was in there, like a real business savvy. He'd just come back from 3 years traveling. So he was like, just wanted to be back in a hammock on a beach somewhere. And he'd had to come back to the UK. So and I was like running a recruitment office, like a super successful team in the city of London. Like, so we were just total opposites. But he brought in all of this idea of like that this isn't just material, that this isn't just 3D matter. And he brought in the concept of everything being energy. And then he just like went on this mad personal development journey. And I remember him going to his first event, and I just moved. We'd been together a year. I just moved from London to Manchester. And I remember him getting back from this happy clappy personal development event. And he'd spent ridiculous amounts of money and signed up to do this program for a year, basically. And I remember looking at him and thinking, holy shit, he's different, like completely different. And I've just moved my whole life to be with this guy, and he's going on this journey for a year. I need to get on board with this journey, otherwise he's going to leave me behind. Like, I could just see that. So I reluctantly, and it was reluctant, stepped into personal development and started going to like Tony Robbins, and met John Kehoe, one of my really dearest teachers, and like just went on this whole journey of who's it? T. Harv Eker. I don't know if you ever came across T. Harv Eker. But yeah, so we kind of stepped into this world of personal development, and that was just a massive initiation for me. And I wasn't really interested in all the make money fast kind of thing. That didn't really interest me. But what really interested me was what they were talking about again, everything being energy, and the seed of human potential. And that woke something in me of wow, okay, so we are the creators of our reality. That's interesting. That's really interesting, because I'd never heard that before. And I was like, this is a completely different way of thinking. And it led me onto a path of I think actually the word is obsession. I used it the other week, and I became really obsessed with the concept of everything being energy, and I feel like it was meant to be that way, and it awoke that seed within me of my potential, and then I've just been following that for the last 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So then because I was already on a healing journey, because I'd got eczema all over my body, and and I was determined not to do it the traditional allopathic type medicine route. So I was working with a homeopath and tried Chinese and all sorts of different things. So I was already kind of dipping into alternative types of healing. And then it just ramped up, and I started to see hypnotherapists and EFT practitioners, and just all sorts of different people who would be able to help me to dig in and dig in and dig in and dig in. And that's what I did.
That was your spiritual awakening. So it doesn't have to be bang spiritual awakening. It could be just subtle thing that someone says, or a book that you read, and that's it. You're on a path of obsessive path on, oh my God, there's so much more to life than we think.
Yeah.
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 And I think like you meeting Daniel is the way you describe it is like you were totally the opposite. He was on this side of you, and you came together. And it's not something that you see, because most people in relationships, they look, okay, I need a person who has the same interest as me, who has everything, this, that, the, and the, on the same path as me. But you were totally on a different path. But you somehow came together, and you are growing. Like even when I see you guys together, it's such a amazing thing. You're my relationship goals, really. So it's you guys are so cute together. You guys are so conscious and aware. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's not always.
Is that,
It's not
well,
always
yeah,
really
yeah.
sweet. It's not, because we're both growing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we're digging into our stuff all the time. And like it's like our house is like a constant therapy session a lot of the time, of us working through different parts of our system, and it's nothing gets left, like there's
Yeah.
no stone left unturned in our house. So it can be tiring, and it can be challenging as well, right? But ultimately I feel like that's what we're here to do,
Yeah,
and
I was about to say this is the work that you are here to do. And I was speaking to someone the other day about when you meet your soulmate, or it's just a label, but when you meet that person, they don't just bring up the light in you, they bring up the shadow in you as well. And most people run as soon as the shadow comes up.
yeah
And so it's very rare that souls stay together and work through those shadows and the healing process and everything. And it's great, two conscious beings coming together, even though he was more aware before he met you, but then two conscious being working on the same like the issues and the healings and the triggers, and it's beautiful to see. That's how it should be.
Yeah, you are a mirror to one another, 24 hours. I mean, we work together, live together, like we do everything pretty much together. So, that has its blessings, but it also is really challenging.
Yeah,
And it's like the person that you're in relationship with, that close relationship, there's no barriers, I speak to him in ways that I wouldn't speak to anybody else.
Yeah.
And the same with him to me. And he brought parts of my system come up that wouldn't come up with anybody else, So it's really, it's like this just constant reflection of one another. And yeah, like you say, it can be challenging, but it is so worth it. It really is so worth
absolutely.
it. And I think it's just understanding that. And I think actually, like IFS and internal family systems, and that as a model, and understanding that we are multi-parted, and understanding that whatever is being expressed that is not in self energy is a part of the system. It's not the truth of who we are. That really helps with us and our communication, because it's like speaking for a part, and to be able to receive the other's part stops projection, and it stops those feelings of just makes it smoother, and there's less attachment, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
I totally get it.
yeah, that was a big turning point actually when I did when we were first introduced to IFS, and then when I went and did my trainings. That was huge to shift, and help the healing process to accelerate as well.
Yeah, totally get that. So I know that you are a Satwa, is that how you say it? Satwa Yoga teacher?
Sattva,
Satwa,
yes, yeah.
So what is Satwa Yoga then?
So Sattva Yoga is so Sattva means pure. So it's a type of yoga that is like a fully integrative practice. So a lot of the times in the Western culture, when we think of yoga, we think of down dog and up dog, and we think of the movement part of yoga, and that is definitely a part of yoga. But it's one of the aspects of yoga. So it's also got in a lot of Kundalini. It's got in a lot of pranayama. So really strongly working with the breath. As well as a lot of rituals and working with the elements in different ways. So it's a really beautiful practice. And when I was looking at taking that energy understanding to a next level, I didn't really necessarily want to be a yoga teacher. I was just told that I was told by the plant medicine actually, that my body needed to be stronger for the next phase, and that I needed to go and I needed to do my yoga teacher training. So I went to India and did my Sattva. And a really dear sister of mine, Natasha, she was already a Sattva yoga teacher, so I'd already been doing her classes, and it just really resonated for me. So it's kind of a mix of breath work and Kundalini yoga and asana yoga with like the hatha yoga in there as well as really understanding and connecting in with nature. So it's kind of a bit of a mixed bag. And Sattva is based, the teaching center is based up in Rishikesh, so it's right up in the Himalayas, and it's more in the Yog-Vedantic tradition, so it's more northern India rather than the southern India, which is more Kundalini yoga is from the south. So yeah.
What is the benefits of this yoga?
Yeah, so for me, I really see it as being, you're working very deeply on your energy system. So it's when you're working with the breath and working with prana, you're absorbing in the life force of the universe. You're absorbing in all that intelligent life force. So the benefits for me of working with Sattva Yoga is that yes, when you're doing like a hatha yoga, for example, yes, you're working with the breath, and you're syncing the breath with your movements, and you're moving your body into different postures. And it's important that we're moving, but there's something really profound about working with your breath in different types of ways to really just be activating your energy centers, really activating each chakra, and activating your inner fire within you, and just moving the energy through and becoming into mastery. And understanding that the positioning is key, like understanding that that clenching your perineum or clenching your touching the top of your tongue, your tip of your tongue to the top of your mouth, just that small twinge can have a profound impact. And really understanding the energy body or the physical body as a technology. And that has been the biggest thing that I've taken, that I've never experienced in any other yoga. I wouldn't have called myself a yogi. Like, I've been practicing yoga for probably about 8-9 years, on and off, You know, like I was never super consistent. I went to a class once a week or you know, kind of that level of yoga. So I've not really delved into other types of yoga necessarily, but for me, it just feels like you're accessing and understanding your energy system on a whole different level, and working with the breath. Just, I mean, you could, your whole body can be tingling, like you're energizing your system in a completely different way, and yet still having the asana, because Kundalini is very much like that. You know, you're kind of sat and you're working with the breath, and you're rising the Kundalini up through the system, but it's having that movement of flow allows the distribution of energy.
I go to your weekly classes, yoga classes. Amazing, honestly. I feel absolutely amazing afterwards. The breath work and the yoga itself, and you're a great teacher. You're a fantastic teacher. You know.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I'm aware that you are also an earth keeper. Now, a term that I've never heard of. I'm sure many of our listeners haven't either. Earth keeper. So, what is an earth keeper, and what do you do?
So I see earth keeping as just honoring Mother Nature and giving her gifts and using our energy channels that we have been born with to being in good use for Pachamama and Mother Earth. So that can be done in many different ways. So it can be earth keeping for me is picking up litter while you're walking down the street. Earth keeping for me is making a beautiful flower mandala as a gratitude for the change of seasons. For me, earth keeping is actually going into kind of like a ritual type situation where you're offering prayers and gratitude and thanks to a tree or to some flowers or to a particular sacred site or to a land. And it's about using our individual consciousnesses to be able to make an offering back to Mother Nature. So earthkeeping is being super grateful for the meal that's on your plate. It's like it's the tiny little things. There are earth keeping. All of the indigenous tribes are earth keepers. That is what they do, right? They are guardians of this planet, and that's the true nature of what each and every single one of us is. We've just lost our way a little bit with high heels and sharp suits and cocaine. So, but it's coming back to nature and seeing her for what she really is, and honoring that in a way that just feels right. You know, like giving food before you eat, like, you know, thanking the fire and offering the fire tobacco or chocolate. Like there's so many different ways that we can honor the earth that's around us and the elements that are around us. So it's just landing into respect and honoring and union with Mother Earth.
That's really beautiful. Do you have to do some sort of like ceremony to become an earth keeper, or can anybody be an earth keeper?
I mean, you definitely can do trainings with different indigenous tribes. So I learned an awful lot of my techniques through Deborah Daglin, and she did her training with the Karo tradition, who are based in the Andes. So she taught me a lot about doing like earth gifts and earth prayers and that kind of thing. So there definitely are ways that you can train. But I think sometimes it just becomes a conscious decision as well that I am going to be an earth keeper and I am going to pick up at least one piece of rubbish every time I leave the house. That's going to be my gift to Mother Earth every day. Could you imagine if every person who actually cared, and there are millions and millions of people that are good people that care, but were inspired enough to pick up one piece of rubbish every time they left the house. It's not even a big ask, right? But so many of us are just kind of getting on with our day and we don't realize, but it's just kind of looking and could even just be small things like, actually, I am going to like take more care with my recycling, or I am going to think about where I'm purchasing my things from. And I'm going to buy organic instead of buying from chemicals. I am going to plant some trees. I am going to, there's many different ways that we can show up as being an earth keeper. I don't think you necessarily have to do your training. However, there are ways that you can train so that you are really on point and actively engaging with planet Earth and using the traditions that have been passed down through the indigenous wisdoms for a long time, and being able to utilize what they've already learned and how Pachamama likes to be spoken to and all that kind of stuff. So you can do that. There is ways, but and each tribe will have their own techniques and their own traditions and their own ways of working.
I think that's really beautiful, because I remember me and you, Daniel, and Daniel's mom Elaine went for a walk, and you guys were just, you grabbed the bags and it's like you all throughout the walking, and it's like you're putting this rubbish in, and we had like 2 huge bags of rubbish, right? It was just so it was just really beautiful to see that your love for this planet is like, everyone else was just standing doing nothing, and even some throwing rubbish on the floor and things, but you guys were just picking it up and just putting it in a bag, picking it up and putting it was just really, I thought, oh my god, these guys are so cute and so dedicated to this planet, and it's where like Pachamama, I use it all the time. I use it all the time now. It's
so beautiful.
It is like we had a new moon ceremony. Well, I had new moon rituals last night, and in the I got out in the balcony and just stood with my hand on my heart, and it's like, thank you Pachamama for everything.
You see, you're doing it.
So it was just incredible. It's just incredible. So now I'm aware, like, you do a lot of like you have a healing, you do quite a lot of healing modalities, right? There's like IFS, there's EFT, access consciousness, Reiki, and the list goes on and on. So what was it something that you always wanted to do, being on a healer's path?
Definitely not. No, it wasn't ever. It's funny because even as I was doing my training, it wasn't what I wanted to do. So sounds really selfish, but every single training that I've ever done has been about my own journey and my own path and my own healing. And then as I got the skills and sort of saw the potential, I couldn't help but share that. But no, like as I was growing up, I mean, I wanted to be everything, right? I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be like just like an astronaut. I think I wanted to be a fighter jet pilot at one point. Like I wanted to be a lot of things, right? I wanted to be a lot of things. But I never enough to actually do anything about it. Do you know what I mean? It was like there was always a reason why I couldn't do that. Like it was like, oh well, yeah, well I would do that, but actually I don't think I'd like that bit, or I wouldn't. So I knew a lot of what I didn't want to do. And I fell into recruitment because I just wanted a career, and it was like they were offering me a career, but I didn't even want that job. Like, when she offered it to me, I was like, oh yeah, okay. It was like, but I was like, I've got a chance here of earning a decent amount of money, and like and actually having a career that I can put my hat on. So no, it wasn't. I didn't think I want to be a healer. That's always been in my path. I wanted to heal, and I wanted to grow, and I want other people to experience the same thing. Like my highest vision is that all humans can be in a high state of consciousness so that we do all become earth keepers. So we do remember that is what we're here to do. And actually we're custodians of this planet. And we're here to We're here to bring magic, not to destroy everything that we touch,
Yeah.
So, and that comes from consciousness, that comes from us understanding, it comes from us looking at ourselves deeply, and hurting the parts of us, or healing the parts of us that are hurting, rather, and really honoring ourselves and coming into love, and finding those parts within ourselves to come into love and gratitude for our journeys and all that we've been on. And that is my highest wish, and anything that I can do to be a part of that is my path. That's what I'm here to do. So it wasn't always something that I wanted to do, but it's grown into doing something that I am doing, and will continue to do even more. And I will continue to do more trainings because the list does go on. But then it's like, I'm sure you've experienced the same thing, right, Mads? For me, it's about just tuning in. Like every training I've done, it's because it resonated, and I felt like that feels like that's my next step. And everyone's journey is completely different. There are literally thousands and thousands of different healing modalities, and if you speak to any healer, they will tell you that theirs is the best way, right? Because everybody believes that their way is the best way. And and there's value in it because it is the best way for them. And it's like there's some stuff that I think that sounds really good, but actually it's not my path. Somebody else can pick that up and they can run with that. So yeah, it's just, for me, it's just following that and just trusting in that, and just allowing the trainings and other people's channels to be able to accentuate how I can help people to be in their greatest expression and living their best life. Like we're here, that this is such a playground and we're not seeing it. So it's like, how can we see it? How can we live it? How can we be it? Like it's possible for us all. I believe that. It's just, we've just got some work to do as a collective first.
The vision that I was seeing while you were telling me that is like the universe is sort of preparing you for you to be at service. But when you're going through the training and I don't want to do it, you'll be that kid and the universe is the parent. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's like, it's good for you. It's good for you. It's good for you, until you're like, oh yeah, it is good for me. And the other people.
My yoga training was definitely like that. I was like, this is awful. Why am I here? This is terrible. But it's it's like, it's warrior training,
Yeah, absolutely.
It really
Love
is.
the warrior energy.
Yeah.
So, I know that I know that Galactic Mayan Calendar is important part of your soul's work. So can you explain to our listeners what Galactic Mayan Calendar is?
Okay, yeah. So I work with the Dream Spell calendar. So there are two Mayan calendars. There's the traditional Mayan calendar, and then there's the Galactic Dream Spell calendar, which was basically a guy called Jose Gualas. He translated the Mayan calendar back in, I don't know the date. I should learn the date. I think it was like the 70s or the 80s. And for me, like, it is definitely a part of my soul's path and calling, to be involved with this teachings of time. The way it's a form of astrology, but it works off cycles of time. So the Mayan Tolkien is 9 months, rather than kind of like a year. So it's like works in cycles on cycles on cycles. So you've got the Tolkien, which is 9 months, and then each of us have a part of a solar tribe, and there's 20 solar tribes, and then we each have a resonant frequency within that tribe, which is called a tone, and there's 13 of those. So I, for example, am a blue resonant monkey. So I bring that energy into this world, and it just allows us, or it allows me, to get a feel for the people that I'm working with, to have an understanding of their energy. But then also it's allowed me the insight to be able to then track back to look at what are challenging days for me, and understanding my cycles a little bit more. And it's just been fascinating for me, because it's a more natural process. Like when we're thinking about 9 months. We're in gestation. Like, it takes 9 months for a woman to have a child. And, you know, it's more natural. These are the natural cycles that we're a part of. And the more that I'm delving into it, the more that I'm seeing that actually this 12 months is more, it's knocked us off our sacred rhythm in a way. So there's a lot of people that are petitioning for us to go back to a more traditional 9-month calendar. And I definitely, like, I'm really looking forward to because we're going to be leaving the country soon, and to drop into, as much as possible, working on a 9-month calendar. I did it completely when I was in my training for India, when I was doing my Sattva training. I didn't know what day of the week it was. All I knew was that today is a yellow cosmic storm day, a yellow cosmic Sunday, or, you know, whatever it might be. And it was really lovely for me to just drop into that completely. Now it's difficult because the whole world isn't on it, right? So if you say Thursday at Tuesday, I can't say what a yellow cosmic sun at 2 p.m. Like, you wouldn't know what I was talking about. Yeah. So the Dream Spark calendar is just a way for us to get an opening. Like, it opens a portal for us to be able to see the world in a completely different way. And we've got different energies that are coming through all of the time, and we have their weeks of 13 days, and they're called wave spells. So, like, at the moment we're in the Yellow Warrior wave spell. We're on the 5th day of the Yellow Warrior wave spell. And the Yellow Warrior energy is just that. And it's like, as a collective, we're being called to our warrior energy. So there's fearlessness coming up, and being able to step in and understand our intelligence of what it is that we're manifesting. And each and every single one of us is engaging with that energy in a very different way. It's showing up for us in a very different way, because you are a different avatar from myself. You're not a blue resonant monkey, so it's engaging with you differently, and you're in a different state of your journey than I'm in my journey. So you know, it's kind of like unraveling this cycle, and every 9 months we come back round, and it's like peeling off another layer of the onion, and then peeling off another layer of the onion, and then you're getting kind of deeper and deeper and deeper. So yeah, it's just such a beautiful thing. And when I first found out about the Galactic Mayan Calendar, it was like something just went off inside me. And I remember going to see my teacher, Jyoti, for the first time, and I was like a kid. I was bouncing up and down in the seat. I was like, I'm so excited, and I didn't know why I was so excited. But it's like this is really important. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really, really important. And it has been like the last 3 or 4 years that I've been working with the calendar. It's just, it's like this whole other way of seeing time. It's really, I'm thinking to myself, does this even make sense? But it's very challenging to really explain. It's like a feeling. And it's also so complicated. No, it's not complicated, but there's so many different facets to it. Explaining it in a kind of 5-minute overbrief is really difficult. It's something that, if people are interested in, to just explore it and just allow the calendar to speak to you, if it's going to, you know, it might not be a part of your soul's calling, but it certainly is for mine. So yeah, no, I love it. And I found it a really great tool.
Yeah, I absolutely. You usually post like wave spells on your Facebook, and I usually love reading that, because there's one time that is sort of sticking out, was when I first started reading on it. What you reading your post, and you said something about creativity. I was like, oh, okay. And then literally that week, I was so creative. It's like, oh my God, there must be some truth in this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I was channeling that, and then the storm wisdom as well. It's like, yeah, going through it right now. You can resonate with it. You know
Yeah.
it. So it's, it's good to be aware of these things. I mean, the first time my Mayan calendar came to my mind was like in 2012, when everybody was going absolute bonkers because the world was ending or something. And, I was going, oh my God, the world's going to end. The world's going to end. But then now I realize it's not the physical sort of world that's going to end. It's the old consciousness, sort of like the shift in a paradigm, the shift in a consciousness. That was the old was dying for the new to make way. So that's it was such a learning curve for me. So recognizing
Yeah. No, because back in then, 2012, I hadn't come across the Galactic Mayan Calendar at that point. So I was the same. I was like, oh my God, the world's gonna end. But yeah, now I understand it, that it was the end of the long count, and actually we're just transitioning into a whole new way of consciousness and a whole new way of being. And yeah, it's just this whole new energy is coming through, and we can feel it. Like, things have been pretty bonkers since 2012, and people are waking up left, right, and center, and really starting to step into themselves and find their joy. That's what it's all about, is how can we be in bliss and be in joy. So yeah, they're going to that's only going to continue.
That's
the
definitely
Mayans.
that's definitely one thing that I'm noticing, that since 2012, like, so many, I'm hearing a lot of people spiritually waking up, having their spiritual awakening, or waking up to that truth, and that's what is, I think that's what's causing a lot of chaos in the world. Because when I think somewhere I read about the earth itself is waking up, and we are feeling the effects of it. And it's what we obviously, we're part of nature, we're part of the earth. And if earth is feeling like, oh, I'm gonna go through a dark night of soul, we all gonna go through a dark night of soul. So that's the way I see it. So we're so connected to earth. So look at what earth is doing to all these storms that's happening all over the world right now. It's we're feeling that on a consciousness level as well as the earth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So, Kristina, what's next for you guys now? And also, I'm aware that you have a book coming out, You Too Can Bloom. Can you tell us a bit about that? And obviously, what's next for you and Daniel?
Yeah, okay. So yes, I do. I've got my book coming out in January, which is You Too Can Bloom. And it's really funny, because back in 2016, I wrote You Too Can Bloom. And I was going through a huge process at that time, and I was really kind of making a commitment to myself that I was gonna start to focus on me. And then I was inspired by a coach that I was working with. She was like, you need to write this down. Like, you need to write everything that's in your heart. You need to just get it out there. So I wrote the book in 2016, and I wrote it, but I hadn't done enough work to be able to hold it. So I kind of did a Facebook post. I've written a book, and then ran away to Thailand for 2 months. I was like, never posted ever again about my book, or the fact that I'd written a book. Or so over the last few years, I've done loads of training. I've like accentuated my my understanding, my learning. So I've re-edited it. So it's a second edition, but it's pretty much like the first edition, really. But it's been in the making for a little while. But it's the whole purpose of You Too Can Bloom is to support people on their awakening journey. So it's to take people through a process and just help people when we're feeling kind of at the beginning, when everything's like new and we're in a bit of chaos. And it's like, how can I find my center, and helping people that have got no experience or knowledge or understanding, really, that everything's energy, and helping guide people through that process. So it's kind of the book I wish I could have read like 9 years ago. So that's going to be coming out in January. And then, huge adventures afoot for Daniel and I. So we're going to be in like 3 weeks, we're going to be leaving our home. And for the last couple of months, well, in fact, for the last couple of years, I've been getting really strong messages that that we need freedom is really important, and that we need to be able to go wherever spirit wants to put us. And so we kind of sat down and talked about it, and we were thinking, we started putting plans in place before all of the lockdowns happened and everything happened with COVID, of just like dropping fully into surrender and trust with the universe. And like, Daniel and I ran conscious dinner clubs, and one of our conscious dinner clubs, like, we had this beautiful couple, and they were sat there like stroking our cat and just like loving her, and she was just like, oh, this is amazing. I love you two humans. And they were like, we love cats, but we'd really like, we really want to get one, but we don't know whether or not we're going to be able to, because we're going to be moving house in September. At that time, Daniel and I were looking to leave the country in September. And we were like, are you looking for a house in September? And we're like, yeah. And we were like, whereabouts are you looking? I'm like, kind of around here. We were like, oh, maybe we need to have a chat. Yeah. So we had a chat, and they were really happy with the house, really happy to take care of the cat, like just basically take everything off our hands. And then COVID happened, and we were like, okay, interesting. So we'll just surrender and trust. And then things have continued to synchronicities and the signs still that even though things are really uncertain and things are a bit crazy in the world right now, that it's still important that we go. So we're 2 months later than we originally planned, but we're going to be leaving the country, and first stop, we're going to be going to Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So,
what an adventure.
yeah,
I'm so,
I know.
when you told me, I was like, oh, for a week, I was literally crying. I was like, I don't want you to leave. Because, like I said before, I feel this amazing connection with you. And, I've actually opened up to you. I've never opened up to anyone else like the way I've opened up to you. Like, you see me cry, tears, everything. But you're probably the first person that I've completely opened up to, and I'm so grateful to have you in my life, and I'm also so excited for you and Daniel to be on this adventure, because I don't know what it is. I just always felt you guys aren't meant to be in a business sort of world. I just feel that. So I just feel that you're more tribal. Your tribe is calling to you. Nature is calling to you. Pachamama is calling to you more and more. And I've never actually pictured you guys in a business world for too long. So I think it's great that you're following your path, and I wish you all the best in all of your adventures that you go on.
Oh, thank you so much. And this is the thing, like, the beauty of the world that we live in today is that it doesn't matter where in the world we are. Like, I'll still be doing my weekly yoga classes, and like Daniel will still be doing his future leaders calls, and like all of this stuff that we do now. We'd been guided before lockdown and everything happened to take everything fully online anyway. So all of our face-to-face events had all stopped just before lockdown. Which we were super grateful for, having that foresight, because it meant that it was not as stressful going through the whole lockdown situation. But we're still accessible, and we're still there. And I agree, it really does feel like the land is calling. And I think it's really interesting, because the original intention, we were going to go to India, and because of all the COVID, now we're going to Mexico. So it's like, okay, so we'll see what's going to be waiting for us in Mexico. And like, we'll have to just see what's going to happen. But just being able to surrender. Trust and surrender.
Trust and surrender.
And
absolutely.
And just know that it's going to be what it's going to be. And the whatever we experience is because we need to experience that for our soul's development and growth. And every spiritual teacher I've ever worked with always says the same thing, that life is happening for us, not to us.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And
totally agree.
Absolutely. And it's really hard when the proverbial is hitting the fan to hold that, but it's true. And life is happening for us in every moment, even when it feels murky, and just trusting that and holding that in our heart.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Totally
even
agree.
though we might get stuck in Mexico, and who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Just
Who
trust and
knows?
surrender. Just
Trust and
trust and surrender.
surrender.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we are gonna head in rapid fire questions now. Before we leave,
Okay.
I do this with all my guests. So, are you ready? Are you ready? I'm about
Yes.
to grill you now. Oh, I love this part. Okay. Okay. So, what is your definition of God?
Oh, my definition of God is spirit and the interconnectedness of all things. I see God as the weaving web of reality.
Beautiful. Okay. How do you define religion and spirituality?
Um, so for me, so for me, religion is organized and constructed by man. Spirituality is the underlying truth that's beneath all religion.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. Okay. What's the lesson that took you longest to learn?
The lesson that took me the longest to learn. Um,
Got you there.
the lesson that took me the longest to learn, probably. I think patience. Patience is still a lesson that I am learning of how to be patient. Yeah, and patience. That's
Yeah.
the one I'm going
Yeah,
with.
yeah, I think a lot of us are. It's a lesson that so it takes a lifetime. Okay, so do you believe there is an end to healing?
Oh, this is a good one. This is a really good one because yes, I do. I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I do. I feel, and it's controversial, right? It is controversial because pretty much everyone else in the world doesn't, or anyone else. So, but I do. I do feel that it's possible that we can be in a state of full healing, and that we can be in the state of absolute purity in the form in which we're designed to be. I do believe that.
Yeah, I do as well.
Yay! There's two of us.
Yeah, we never follow the crowd. We would take the hard decisions and hard paths. That's why we heal. Okay, so one last one. The world needs more of what?
The world needs more. Love. I've got so many in my head, right? But love, gratitude, forgiveness. Like to just, the world needs more higher levels of consciousness. Like the world needs more earthkeepers.
Yeah.
The world needs more, like, and they all sound a bit corny, which is the hesitancy. And yeah, but I think it's just dropping into our heart, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And coming from that place, because everything that's wrong with the world, wrong. You know what I mean? Like everything that is destructive within the world is coming from a space of fear, and we destroy and we kill and we hunt and we, and it's just, none of it's necessary. So yeah, I think just all of that I just said.
Yeah.
Love, forgiveness, gratitude, like just those really bliss, fun, joy, play, happiness. I could go on all day. Yeah.
Beautiful. Totally agree. So, one last question before we get into the contact details. What is the one message that you would like to share with someone who's going through adversity right now, or someone who's going through their spiritual awakening and lost in the path? What is that one message that you would like to tell them?
it's to trust and to know that spirit has you completely. And if you can sit with that, the people that you need will show up for you, and the book that will help will land in front of you. And the conversations, the podcasts, or the YouTube videos that you need will pull you to them. And yeah, that's it. Just knowing that you are not on your own, like absolutely not on your own, because spirit's always got you, and spirit is calling you into your higher state of frequency at all times.
Yeah.
Like it's just bringing you back to your center at all times, and that feels painful sometimes, but it's bringing you back to where you need to be. So just trust in that.
Beautiful. It's a growing pains, right? Growing pains. So how can people contact you?
So Facebook is probably the best way. Facebook or Instagram, I'm on both. Facebook is just Kristina Batty, and Instagram is Kristina.Batty. But those are my main. I don't really check my emails.
I don't think I do either. I've got like thousands there.
Not really. So through via Facebook is the best bet, or Instagram. It's one of those two. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kristina, for coming on this podcast. I absolutely loved interviewing you. Like I said, you carry such loving energy, and you carry so much wisdom and experience. Is there one last message that you would like to give?
I think it's just keep doing the work, and just knowing that whatever you're doing is enough, and just trusting that we are moving to good places. I believe that with all of my heart and all of my being, and I know that sometimes when we look out into the world, it doesn't look that way and it doesn't feel that way, but actually I really believe it. I really believe it in my heart. And if we are the creators of our reality, then why on earth would we think or believe that we're creating anything other than magic? Like, why would we be convinced and adamant that we're going into a dystopian reality when we're the creators? Like, see utopia, feel it, step into it, and trust that spirit, we're so supported, so supported. Like the whole universe is rooting for us right now, and we're doing it. So just
beautiful.
keep doing it. Whatever it is you're doing, just keep doing it.
Okay. Thank you. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been so beautiful. Thank you. I've loved chatting to you, and really, really gorgeous. Thank you, Madiha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Soul Awakenings with Madiha Sosan podcast. I would love to know what your biggest takeaway from this conversation has been. Share your thoughts on my Facebook and Instagram, Madiha Sosan. You can also check out my website, madihasosan.com. If you would like to watch this episode, then head over to my YouTube channel, Mad's Corner, MADZ Corner. If you enjoyed this episode, then please do rate and share this with your family and friends. Thank you once again, and I will see you on the next episode.